Hey, how's it going, guys? Alright, so this is my my build video for the YouTube Knifemaker Challenge, the Fantasy Challenge. This is the first time participating in one of these, even participating in a sword challenge at all. I've definitely been a long time watcher of all the other challenges, and slowly was like, I really want to do one of these. I'm just, really scared. But yeah, this is my, this is my take on it, my attempt at a fantasy basically sword. I know there was no stipulations on whether it was a fantasy dagger or anything like that, just some sort of fantasy weapon. So what you see here is me kind of coming up with the concept in CAD. For anyone new to the channel or new to figuring out who I am, I've got about 13 years of experience in two-dimensional CAD. Basically starting out 13-14 years ago, programming water jets, drawing up the DXF files, and then actually running the programming for the water jets, and then later on that translated into programming lasers as well. And essentially those are just machines that will cut material like steel, stainless, aluminum. Water jets will do anything, like stone, acrylic, glass, things like that. But yeah, that's kind of my background. For the past 8-9 years now, I've been full-time making props out of metal. It's kind of my gig. Captain America shields was a big thing for me, but also aluminum prop swords. Nothing that had an edge or anything like that. Popping up on the window here, on the left is my my parts order at Sencut Sen, and on the right is the dragon pin. But yeah, so anyway, I've just been a big prop maker for quite a few years now. Oh, here we go, trying to find the mail. Something got delivered. And there we go, Sencut Sen. I've had just a few orders with Sencut Sen. I think this is my second or third one, and so far been great service, speedy delivery. My son there's snatching the Sour Patch Kids. Every time we get an order from them, he's like, oh, there's candy in there. But yeah, no, really great parts. Right now I have a day job at Liquid Metal Concepts. I know I've said this in the past 2 videos, but again, if you're new here, I'll reiterate a lot of the stuff I've said before. Here I am pointing out these little nubbins. Basically, they're tabs to keep smaller parts from falling and getting lost, in the cutting process. Waterjet has a pretty gnarly finish. These are laser cut. Laser has a nicer finish compared to the water jet. Typically water jets are like more of a sandblasted finish. But the day job, Liquid Metal Concepts, they have a pretty powerful laser. Unfortunately, it's the type that does only steel, stainless, and aluminum. So basically I'm getting the copper and brass cut by Sencut Sen. The blade itself, I went ahead and programmed on our laser at work, and that'll be coming up here shortly. But right now I'm just getting a nice clean finish on all the cut edges. Some a little bit more satin. But again, laser cuts are great. I don't know the Sencut Sen laser machine itself. So I went ahead and undersized all my holes just in case. Sometimes companies won't hold much of a tolerance, but they did a really great job. They came out to a tolerance that I spec'd out in the DXF. Last thing I wanted is to get parts where the hardware holes were way too large, or even the pinholes, and that that later on will come to play. But here we are so far, just kind of finishing all the faces, getting the scratches off, getting a nice little satin finish. Just showing that the copper is stepped down in size. And right here, just using the trusty Sharpie. I have Daikin Blue, and I've used it in the past. I've got a huge jar of it that is going to last me a lifetime. Unfortunately, just from personal experience, the Daikin Blue fluid, it seems to come off really easily. So I'm always the Sharpie guy. I get Sharpies from Costco in bulk, so I'll have a pallet of Sharpies in the garage at all times. And I know everyone's gonna probably jump me for using calipers to mark my lines, but that's just what I do. They're from Harbor Freight, so I'm not too worried. And here we go with the next delivery, and this is the pin, and I actually was kind of like surprised because I was like, oh, I got 2 pins. I'm not sure why, but I guess being a first-time customer for this company, they tossed in a little pin. So just go ahead and add that to the mix till I'm ready to go. Earlier in the footage after I was drilling, I went ahead and did a milling of some of the hardware holes where my screws will be basically sunk down into them, kind of like a step. You can see that right there. Essentially, the threaded part of the screw will go through the through hole, and then the head of the screw will be stopped partially through. But here I am, just trucking away on the Dremel. I should say Fordham. I have both a Dremel and a Fordham, and I'd like to go back and forth. I love the power of the Fordham. I love that it's got a reverse function as well. You know, the Dremel has its ups and downs as well. You know, not as powerful, doesn't have a reverse. But you know, the Fordham has that really, really long flex shaft, and if you get at just the wrong angle, you know, it'll bind up. So it's really hard to kind of move around and get into odd angles to get, you know, whatever grinds you need to get done. And here we go. I went ahead and picked this from my work, Liquid Metal Concepts, and this is the blade itself. All laser cut. Came out really nice as usual. And we'll go ahead and put that to the side for now. But I did want to try out, you know, all the pieces to make sure everything fits up. So here's the first test piece with the brass and the copper and everything, and it fits great. All right, here we go. Just doing some little accent grinds. Here I am working on the TW90 horizontal vertical grinder. This thing is a beast, one of the best investments I've made. Again, I've said it in other videos, but Travis, the gentleman that makes this machine, he's a local Arizonian, and not too far from me. So when I put the order in, you know, and he made it, had it ready, he was like, you know what, I'll just go ahead and come on down and bring it to you. So that was really, really, really cool of him to do. And it's nice texturing on there. Doing this with the small wheel attachment on right now. I've got some Bader wheels on there. I believe that's the 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch or 3/4. And now just doing some flat grinds. Back to the small wheel. You know, I really like texturing. You know, a lot of the things that I make, like the cleavers. If you haven't seen any of those videos, I make some very, very large cleavers. Some hog splitters, some some cattle splitters. But I love doing texturing, love doing angles. This kind of stuff to me is really, really fun. Can be tedious at times, but it's really, really relaxing. Just kind of like going at it, removing metal. But yeah, here I am just working angles, all the little bits. I keep stopping to show the part, but to keep this video around the 30-minute mark, I had to speed everything up about 5,000%. I had hours and hours and gigabytes of footage since I recorded everything, every step on the way. All right, here we go with the blade. I had this old metal toolbox. I lined it with rubber and got a couple of gallons of white vinegar. And basically what I'm going to do here is seal it up with plastic wrap, leave it outside. Arizona sun is great for this. The heat's awesome. And what this does after a day is it'll take that mill skill right off. I mean, it's something that can be done with a grinder, flat disc, anything like that. But since I had the time, it was just really easy to let it soak in vinegar and take it right off. So here I did my marks for the main hollow grind. Right now I've got a 3-inch small wheel on the TW90, and this is just a piece of aluminum L angle, about 1/4 inch thick. Below that is a 1/4 inch piece of steel. And there's all my holes for the hardware and the shiny bits. Basically I milled out on the aluminum angle all the hardware holes, essentially just like I did in the copper and the brass, but essentially that allows me to then mount the sword to the piece of aluminum and glide it across the steel. It took a little bit of finesse to make sure I was right on that center line, but once it's there, it's good to go. And just finishing off that little bevel, and basically just remount it on the other side. There we go, mounted on the other side. This is just a really fun process. On all the cleavers that I do, I use the 12-inch wheel to do a really, really deep hollow grind. Essentially not deep, just really wide. And typically with all those, I will use a water mister as I work. On this one I didn't. I figured it was a small enough grind it wouldn't have too much heat going, and it didn't. And there we go with the other side. Hollow ground down. And now time to move on to that edge. I like texturing things. I like hollow grinds on almost everything that I make, and I really like a pretty massive chopping edge. I don't know why a lot of people might disagree, but I think it looks cool, and it cuts really well. You know, I like playing with angles a lot. I think I've gone from 50 degrees all the way up to 75 degrees or 85 degrees for the tip of the sword. But I love playing around with angles as much as I can, getting them to intersect, trying to like essentially complement one another, as well as the piece. So there's that nice chunky edge. And here we go with a really steep grind. pulled it back as far as I can to meet. There we go. Flip it over to the other side. And hop on over there. There we go. Now on the next step, I'm going to be doing essentially what I wanted to do was a light swedge on the back, the spine of the sword. But once I started going, I kind of was working it back, and I wasn't really liking the look of the little hooky blades, the little hooky doos on the back. So here I am, just kind of like working the tip, going back for the first few, and that's when I started noticing, you know what, I'm going to take it down as far as I can for it to, you know, essentially look good. It wasn't a plan to have those as cutting edges or anything like that. It wasn't a thing for them to be sharp, but essentially, you know, once I ground down both sides, they met in the middle. So they are now sharp, and can get stuck in things if you stab if you stab someone with it. And there we go. I really like how the light reflects off everything. Like I said, as much as I can, I'll try and get as much you know, angles as I can to meet and intersect and complement each other. Again, with the trusty Sharpie, marking out the little file guides, and this burring bit is a bit that I got off Amazon. It was like a whole set of, I think, 10, and was only $8, maybe $12. I can't remember, but I know it was really, really affordable, and these things just chew through steel. Alright, so I had some jipping for your thumb around the back. Went ahead and just took that down a little bit, gave it a contour, feels real nice. And here we go with the next test fit. This video itself right here is actually one that I posted to the Knifemaker group to kind of show the progress and ask a question as far as the pinholes. I have never done a Mosiac pin, so it's new to me. When I ordered it, I ordered 3/8, basically 0.375, and it was coming up like almost $3.90. And you know, like I said, being in machine shop background for so many years, that seems like quite a big tolerance. But you know, again, I wasn't sure, so I asked the group, and a lot of guys said, you know, just go ahead and sand it down, and don't get it too hot, because I guess that's epoxy inside there. So once it gets too hot, it's not a good thing. So here I am with a cup of water. I started with a small file at first. It wasn't really doing as much as I wanted. Went to a flap disc, and now I'm on a sanding drum, and that worked great. So once I had that hole figured out, I opened up the holes in the brass parts, and I also ground down the pin itself. I wasn't sure how large I was going to be needing to make those holes, so I held off on a lot of the texturing on the insides of these parts. So here I'm just kind of back on the brass, working it around, doing some texturing. File work is always fun. There's another burring bit from that set. Again, that set is affordable, and they all chew through metal. It's like butter. Yeah, here I am just chamfering the edges, kind of giving it some pretty little swoops, trying to make it look, you know, kind of cool. You know, like I was saying before, I was pretty nervous to try my hand, you know, at participating in this, and again, I'm still really nervous even at this point now that it's done. I've had a lot of Knifemaker friends. One of the best ones I have right now, Matt Reed with Magnum Works. I know I've talked about him before. He's been a great help, you know, as far as, you know, knife making, things like that. You know, me transitioning from being a prop maker into someone that's making, you know, real stabby things, it's a big jump. You know, a lot of my following is from Facebook and Instagram. A lot of them are cosplayers, collectors, things like that. But the knife making world seems to be a little more harsh, I might say. Here I am with a little sonic cleaner, cleaning up all the parts from all the grease and the Sharpie and all that. But not to say it's a bad thing, but you know, this blade right here is not, you know, I'm not a blacksmith. I would love to learn how to do that, but I don't. I would love to know how to make Damascus. That would be awesome. I've seen videos on it, and it's props to anyone and everyone that can do that. So essentially my blade in this contest is just regular A36 hot rolled steel. And in the knife making world, a lot of people will jump you for not having the right type of steel. And, you know, essentially I will get to that point, but I still want to get comfortable. Here I am using some aluminum black. But I want to feel comfortable, you know, getting grinds, getting the assembly, getting the process down before I jump to the real pricey materials. You know, A2 or spring steel or anything like that. But anyway, I digress. This is aluminum black. It's by Birchwood Casey. Essentially it darkens aluminum, but I've found that it works really great on brass and copper. You know, I heat it up with a heat gun, and then, you know, basically once you're done, you just wash it off with cold water, and you're good to go. And like anything and everything that I do, you know, I'll blacken it, and then I'll hit it with a light grit sandpaper to bring out the highlights, bring that metal back, and leave all the textured areas dark, just to give it that contrast, give it that kind of like worn feel. But Birchwood Casey also makes super blue. It's another chemical that I use. Works great on steel, and that's what I essentially will be doing. Oh, there we go. Perma blue. There's Perma blue and super blue. Both of them work essentially the same. They both work really good. But again, I heat it up with a heat gun. The metal, not the chemical. And then once you put it down, it darkens everything nice. Essentially, it's for gun bluing. You know, if you have any blemishes on your, you know, firearms or anything like that, this is something that will bring that finish back. Also protect it, you know, to an extent. And once all that's done, you know, wash it with water, just like the aluminum black. And here I go, just hitting everything with sandpaper. Try to give it that pop. Almost has that, you know, distressed feel to it as well. Not so pristine, not so shiny. And just sanding around the file work. And it was about this point that I was just gonna leave the steel, you know, black as well, just kind of damage it up. But once I put the brass and copper next to it, I was like, oof, it might look better if it was nice and shiny, so I went ahead and went around it, shined everything up. But here we are at final assembly. Just getting all the components together. Got that pin in there, making sure everything fits, tightened it down. I am using aluminum spacers, which is what sits in between the steel itself, and then my hardware screws are what essentially hold all the bits on. The Mosiac pin is basically just for looks. It's in there structurally, but it's not there, essentially sandwiching or holding everything together. And here is a sheath that I made. I'll be posting a video. You know what? I'll probably have it posted as soon as this video is posted. But a whole build video on that leather sheath. There's my son right there. He's like, "Hey, we got a package. You get any candy?" But here I'm just cutting that pin up into 2 pieces and mixing up the epoxy. From the videos that I've seen, it's really open to what type of epoxy. Even super glue can be used. I just went with some JB Weld that they had at the local Home Depot. Was pretty nice, except it sets in 5 minutes and cures in an hour. And within that 5 minutes, I didn't realize that one dragon was facing one way and the other dragon was facing the opposite way. But by then it was curing just enough that there's no pushing it back out and trying again. So got some acetone at this point on some Q-tips, and I'm just cleaning up the overflow. And once it's cured, I got a bunch of blue painter's tape and some saran wrap. The last thing I wanted is get a bunch of brass dust and particles in between all the layers of the handle. And here we go with the pneumatic angle grinder. And it was at that point right there I went a little too deep. It just skimmed through the tape and I started freaking out. Fortunately it was not too deep. And again, this was the most stressful part of the build. Something I've never done, with the pins. And I was dreading every step of it. But yeah, after hand sanding it, it started coming out real nice. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if I, may have had too loose of a gap and might, see a little space around the pin. I've even heard of people using dyes in their epoxy, so that way if there is a gap around the pin, it will be dyed, whether black or whatever color they chose. But luckily it wasn't too bad. I think the pin, for my first time came out all right. But I hope you guys dig it. Here's a little video I did showing the sheath off. Again, I'll be posting that build. Essentially, I got a Glowforge about 5 or 6 months ago, and I've been making leather sheaths from my buddy Matt with Magnum Works. He makes knives like crazy, and I think I've done, maybe like 100 sheaths for his knives in the past few months. So, coming to make this sheath or scabbard, I kind of went all out. All the bells and whistles. Even the sheath build was fun. But anyway, I hope you guys like it. Like I said, I'm not a blacksmith. I don't forge my own steel yet. But for the build and the aesthetics value, I hope you all dig it. People in the Facebook group seem to like it. But I appreciate you watching, and yeah, I'll go ahead and leave off here with a little montage of pictures and videos. So take care.